Recently, I've really gotten into the DC movies. It really surprised me with its writing, action, and comedy.
Stand back and peep the light show. Green Lantern's got this!
I mean, I had all but lost hope in DC adaptations after the original set of stories. You know, the greats. Batman, Static Shock, Justice League. Those shows had it all. Heck, they even had their more saucy moments from time to time.
I need both hands, Professor Palmer.
Nowadays though, it's all about the live action garbage. And yes, it can have its moments. Man, it still amazes me that Wonder Woman was so freaking good. But I'm getting off topic. The DC animated films though really shocked me with how good they are, reminding me of those animated shows of old, but with a much more mature tone to them. And that reminded me of something. A series I had come across years ago after asking the question, what would it look like if you mix the Western superhero stories with the over-the-top fan service seen in most anime?
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Don't Meddle with My Daughter, also known as Uchi no Musume ni to o desu. Oh Jesus! Also known as Uchi no Musume ni te o dasuna, or as I always shortened it to Uchi no Musume, is a superhero story made by Nozomu Tamaki, a fantastic mangaka who's probably known mostly for the infamous manga Dance in the Vampire Bund. What is infamous about it, you might ask? Well, the main character is a lolly vampire who has a shocking amount of upfront nudity. But that's a story for another day. Or never day with YouTube's guidelines, sadly. Anyways, Nozomu Tamaki is, in my opinion, a great writer, and oddly enough, his art style always felt a bit more Western to me compared to some of the other artists around. Maybe because of the more defined muscles and thick bodies of his characters. Speaking of thick, our story focuses on the adventures of the superpowered hero, the Eighth Wonder.
Wait, that ain't thick. Don't tell me you're one of those idiots who thinks any anime character south of a size -15 is thick.
Pfft, fuck no, I'm cultured. And that's not our main character. This is Athena, a retired superhero now happy to just be a regular single mother taking care of her teenage daughter, Clara, who has been gallivanting around saving lives and fighting supervillains behind her mother's back, and just got caught. Reacting like a parent who just caught wind of her child having drugs or porn or something, she storms her daughter's room only to find a teleporter she seems oddly familiar with. Without any hesitation, but with a bit of a tight fit, she uses it and storms the compound it takes her to, demonstrating some of her godly power by just blowing through their defenses. And by blowing, I mean using a goddamn feather duster to deflect bullets and even catch a ball of electricity before chucking it back at the poor security officers. Now, just gonna do a bit of overanalyzing right here, because this moment actually caused me to pause, despite having read the series several times. The Eighth Wonder's power set is actually listed out clearly in the manga, and it's basically the standard flying brick kind of package, you know, the Superman, Supergirl, or well, I guess Power Girl would be more relevant here for obvious reasons. I have no idea how any of her powers equal to allowing a common feather duster to not break on impact with bullets, or more importantly catch goddamn electricity, but whatever. She runs up on the commander of this organization, a former friend of hers shown clearly when the commander makes a joke about the Eighth Wonder's weight gain over the years and doesn't get executed Mortal Kombat style, and she argues with her over the fact that she was trying her best to keep her daughter away from that lifestyle, even going so far as to hide the existence of her own powers from her daughter, only for the government to recruit her anyways in secret. And when the commander asks what's the problem, I mean, they both are nigh invulnerable as a starting point to their plethora of abilities after all. Athena counters that with the best explanation I have ever heard for a female superhero to willingly let innocent people die around her. She doesn't want her daughter anywhere near the battlefield when clearly they're in a fetish manga.
He's got a point.
Okay, that's not exactly what she said, but choosing to be a hero might have been the most embarrassing decision of Athena's life, facing off against hordes of sex-crazed monsters, fetish-themed supervillains, and almost always being put in compromising positions, or worse, all in the pursuit of defeating the evil organization known only as Blowjob. Yeah, it's gonna be that kind of manga. So, knowing she can't change her daughter's mind, she decides to come out of retirement and shadow her daughter's battles offering assistance from afar. A decision which is immediately rewarded with her being groped by robot tentacles, having her uniform burnt off her, and having an encounter with a plant monster that I can't describe beyond saying it had quite the climax. But hey, better her than her daughter, right?
Are you not entertained?
This series is so wacky and over the top sexy, yet it's also pretty grounded. Like, one villain of the week character is essentially a stalker with the ability to merge with his target's shadow, but then reveals that to use his powers, he has to essentially walk around naked all the time, complete with a particular appendage making boing sound effects as he walks around her house looking for info for blowjob. He even catches Athena having some personal time to the image of her deceased husband killed in the line of duty, complete with her using her powers to float in the air while doing it. That's actually pretty sad now that I think about it. And then she catches him and pokes his eye out with a giant dildo, before he gets fucking sniped for almost releasing information about blowjob. So yeah, this series is mature in every sense of the word, while still retaining a comedic sense of sexuality. And everything I mentioned here is just in the first volume of a 3-part series. Later chapters, while still indulging in the heavy sexualization of his characters and situations, also have a deeper story going on, with Athena trying to silently and not so silently guide her daughter into being the superhero that she wants to become, expanding on Blowjob's goals as an organization, and even introducing a mysterious character who looks like a younger version of Athena's fallen husband. And it does all that while still having some of the most perverted and mature themes possible for a still technically safe for work manga. And boy does it stretch that technicality, especially near the end with the final volume. Speaking of which, fun story, before I started writing this, I ordered a fresh copy of the entire series. Purely for review purposes, of course. But when it came to the final volume, I noticed that the first chapter of the volume repeats itself near the end. Now at first I thought it might have been some sort of censorship thing, because I had already read this entire series, so I knew that the first page overwritten was some pretty hardcore stuff of the most non-consensual kind. So I was like, maybe they censored the final volume. But not only would nuking, I'd say about 1/15 of the manga be pretty overkill, but it also would be a strange decision, seeing as other parts of the manga with similar themes had not been altered in any way, shape, or form. So I looked online, and yeah, there's at least one other person in the world willing to review this manga, and in his review, he showed the chapter in question in its unaltered glory. So I have to assume I got a rare misprint or something. But just in case, I also ordered a second copy to compare. It probably won't show up until after I record this video, but hopefully it'll arrive in time for me to make some sort of update edit. Not sure what I'm going to do with the spare copy. Might keep it as a rare trophy or give it away in a Patreon raffle or something. I don't know, but back onto the manga. I guess in summary, Uchi no Musume is a really fun, mature Japanese take on the Western superhero tropes, while still keeping to the author's more sexualized style. Is it in the tier of writing that his previous works were in? No. But instead of parading around a naked lolly, it instead goes for the underappreciated MILF. And it doesn't overstay its welcome, to the point of the premise being too convoluted or immersion breaking to handle. And I say that with the belief that there was enough to at least make one more volume of content. The story has tons of unique characters in it, plenty of them could have had their own little stories with action and fan service and whatever else the writer could think up to expand on the world a bit more. Heck, the final volume alone brings in a lot of brand new fully drawn superheroes and villains just for a giant climactic finish before shooing them off and never showing them again. But on that note, the story does kinda continue on past the 3 main books, in the form of hentai doujinshi.
You serious?
Kinda dropped all pretenses after a while, didn't he? But yeah, the mangaka actually created a short series that continues Clara's story, and some of it is told, get this, from the perspective of a minor character turned villain, who starts out as one of Clara's closest friends, who secretly knows of her heroics, but is actually in love with Clara, and her shy self-consciousness paired with the fear of Clara growing distant due to her role as a superhero, causes her to gain super bondage powers that she uses to attack the other schoolgirls who badmouth Clara. Oh, and none of that is from the doujinshi, by the way. That's all in the main manga.
Cocaine.
The doujinshi, called The Amazing Eighth Wonder, expands on their budding lesbianic relationship. I'm sorry, I'm wrong. The rabbit hole goes even deeper with a few other doujinshi outside of the Amazing series that are also done by this mangaka. Clearly I need to conduct further research on this topic. But yeah, there's a lot of supplemental material to this series, and while yes, they do tend to focus on the type of things you'd think a doujinshi would focus on, they're still written just like the original manga, and effectively function as an epilogue to the main character's stories. But even without going that deep into the debauchery, the main offering of the manga is pretty good, both fun and sexy, some might say too sexy but we ignore those people, and it's interesting to see this level of fan service done with the superhero genre. That's something you don't see every day, or at least I don't. Feel free to throw down some comic recommendations in the comment section if you disagree, but the closest I can think of is Adam Warren's Empowered Comics. A really cool comic, and a topic I should really cover in the future. Wait, wasn't Empower one of the topics I wanted to cover in 2020? Oh god, it's June! Oh god, Commodore still isn't done! Oh god, Escalator's out!